Welcome back to the Sticks Baseball Podcast. I'm TJ, your host. I've got a good buddy of mine in today. We're going to talk a little baseball. This is Jaxon. Jaxon, why don't you take a couple minutes, just introduce yourself? I was going to introduce you myself, but I didn't know if you wanted all your dark secrets out on the internet. So why don't you just say what you're comfortable with?
That's smart. Yeah, I've got a lot of dark secrets out there that I
I
don't
know.
want, out in the public there. No, Jackson Riley, TJ and I have been buddies for a long time. Um, yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a big baseball guy like TJ. I'm also a stats. I got a stats degree, which I tell people that most of the reaction I get is like, "Oh yeah, I took one stats class in college and wanted to drop out." So um, and I was kind of the same way, but I kept going with it for some reason and got a stats degree. So you combine those, the baseball and the stats. I think it's a pretty good combo. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
A lot of guys out there think they're stats guys. Jackson's the real deal. This is what he studied in college. This is what he lives for. So before we get into the bulk of what we're going to talk about today, I wanted to just cover some big transactions that took place actually today. So we're recording this on January 21st. Couple big names fell off the free agent market. We got Cody Bellinger, 5 years to the Yankees, $162.5 million. Bo Bichette, 3 years, $126 million to the Mets. And we'll talk about this in a second, but we got Yadi Molina to the Cardinals front office. I don't know if you saw that one. We didn't talk about that
Oh, I
earlier.
did
So,
not see that
yeah.
one.
So, we're catching you a little off guard here, but any thoughts before we get into anything else on those three names there?
You just kind of knew it was a matter of time, right, before Yachty would end up either
Yeah.
managing or in the front office. When you capture that long, it's like you're just going to end up somewhere. I'm kind of surprised though that Bellinger went back to the Yankees.
I am
It
too.
kind of seemed like they were going back and forth and back and forth. Didn't really seem like something was going to get done. So that one surprised me a little bit.
There was a report out not that long ago that the Yankees had said they were not going to get into a bidding war for Bellinger. They were happy to have him back if they could come to terms, but they were not going to fight for him. So that did hit me a little bit surprised there. What about Bichette to the Mets? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's like the Mets are just trying to like get the greatest infield with and then just kind of winging it everywhere else, right? They have a lot of really good infielders. Bichette is a guy that, he had a tough year in 2024 and then came back and was really good in 2025 until he got injured. So I don't know. I mean, of course it's a good signing, right? He's a great player. So I think he'll help him out a lot.
Yeah, I was shocked to see him. I mean, I just felt like he was a Blue Jay for some reason. I
Yeah.
thought they were gonna kind of make a run, make sure that he stayed home. But yeah, the Mets had thrown a lot of money around this offseason and hadn't really landed anybody. So it was
Yeah,
about
and they
time.
lost Alonso too.
And they lost Alonso. So I think they were about due to land somebody. I thought it was interesting though, the last few deals that have come through this year, and last, besides Soto with the 15-year. But other than that, I feel like baseball's been trending towards shorter deals with a higher AAV, which isn't really baseball, right? We're used to seeing those 15-year deals. Uh, Soto with the Mets 15, Harper 10 with the Phillies. Um, so it's kind of interesting to see that a little bit of a shift into some shorter deals with for a lot of money.
Yeah, I wonder if that will continue, right? We've just seen some of these contracts that look really good when they get handed out. Maybe for the first few years they're pretty good, but towards the end of those contracts, it starts to get pretty rough. So I wonder if teams are kind of shifting that way, and then players are just like, you know what, I'll just take the money now.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I kind of thought too, it might be in the benefit of the players where they're able to lock down, 3, 4 big contracts in their span of a career instead of they get off their rookie deal, they sign a 12, 15 year whatever, and that's their career. So it reminds me of basketball where, you're just looking for that next max contract, whatever it is. It feels like we're kind of headed in that direction. I don't know if you agree or not, but
Yeah, yeah, I do.
um, last thing I want to talk about before we get into some other stuff was Yadi Molina to the Cardinals. Now, I'm gonna throw a thought out there, and if you think I'm crazy, you let me know. But I think him in the front office, this is just temporary. And as soon as that manager makes a mistake halfway through the season, they're not looking so good. I think he slides right in. Whether that's partway through the year or it's next year or the year after, whatever it is, I think that they're priming him to take the reins. What do you think?
Yeah, that's like a little, like, Joe Montana, Steve Young kinda
Ex-
situation there. It's
exactly,
like, "Oh, no, no,
exactly.
he's just the backup. Yeah, you've got nothing to worry about." Yeah, when in reality, I think everyone's looking at him like, "No, you're gonna be the manager here pretty soon, right?"
Yeah,
I think you're
that's
right on
kind
the
of the way
money.
I saw that. Is that they're like, let's get him in house. Let's get him looking at baseball from a 30,000-foot perspective, right, instead of on the field. And then as soon as they're not liking what they're seeing on the field, they're just gonna let him take over. That's the way I see it. I could be way off, but we'll see. Okay, let's see. Quick few facts about me and Jackson. How long have we known each other? Since
Oh,
14,
probably,
so 12-ish
yeah,
years.
about 12 years, probably.
About 12 years. Yeah, what? We hunt and fish a lot together. We watch a lot of baseball together, watch a lot of football together. So we're always talking sports, always running ideas by each other. If I asked you why stats matter now more than ever in baseball, well, I mean, float some ideas by me. What are we thinking there?
Yeah, I mean, stats have always mattered in baseball, right? I mean, even back when baseball was just getting started, right? In the 19th century, people were keeping track of stats. I think the thing that differentiates baseball maybe more than other sports is even though baseball is a team sport, there's a lot of one-on-one happening, right? There's a lot of individual stuff happening. You're not really dependent a lot on your teammates, compared to say basketball or football or soccer. And because of that, we can get a lot of individual stats, and we can really evaluate players better, and we can evaluate them more than we can in other sports. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, obviously it's a team sport and obviously, who's around you matters, but like you said, I think in baseball you get a lot more one-on-one, right? Like you can't pass your at bat off to somebody because you don't like the matchup or whatever, right? Guys got to hit, guys got to throw, things like that. Um when did you realize that you were like more into numbers than box score, right? Like we look at the box score and I see wins and losses. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I still love a good box score. Um,
Yeah.
but you see that a guy goes, 3 for 4 with two singles and a double. You know that he did good, but it still doesn't paint like the whole picture, right? It doesn't tell the whole story. And so I still like the box score, like I said, but now we there's just so many numbers out there, and just so many statistics out there that we can really get a pretty good feel for how well a player is doing compared to other players in the league. So I think it's a good thing that we have, more than just a box score.
Yeah, no, I agree. And looking at the box score, like you said, can be deceiving sometimes. You see runs, you see wins and losses. You see so and so's 3 for 4 with a home run, blah blah blah. But like you said, it doesn't. I can't really picture the game itself by reading the box score, right? Whereas some of these advanced statistics and metrics, it puts together a more complete picture. I agree there.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think fans overrate or underrate analytics as a whole?
Okay, that's interesting, because I feel like analytics is so closely linked with baseball, and there's just been like just so many movements in the game, right? So I think of like batting average,
Okay.
right? Back back in the day, it was like whoever had the highest batting average was like the MVP, right? It was like the
Yeah.
best player ever.
That was like the stat we were looking at, right?
Exactly. Exactly, right? And then this whole Moneyball thing happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? Actually, batting average maybe might not be, the one stat that tells how good a player is. But then I almost felt like the pendulum swung a little bit too far,
Yeah. Okay.
right? And then it became like, well, batting average. I mean, that doesn't mean anything, right?
Means
Batting
nothing.
average. If you're using batting average, I mean, you're an idiot. Which I don't think that's totally fair either, right? I mean, we're looking at how often the guy gets a hit. I think that still provides some value. You look at like other things with the Moneyball stuff, like bunting, right? Became like you always bunt, and then Moneyball came, and then it kind of became, well, you should never bunt.
Right.
And again, I feel like that pendulum kind of swings too far. I think the Moneyball movement, what it maybe meant to say was we might be bunting a little bit too much here, and that's not to say we should never bunt, but there may be situations where we are bunting where we shouldn't be. But that kind of became, oh, if you're bunting, your manager's an idiot, and that's not really the case either. So I feel like sometimes these trends, these movements, just kind of swing until we kind of end up right where we should be.
Yeah. Okay. I like the way you explain that. There needs to be some middle ground when it comes to analytics and to stats and what we traditionally view as uh traditional baseball, right? I think I kind of mentioned this in my previous episode where um you look at managers today and I'm not saying all, and it's probably, putting people in a box that they shouldn't be in, but they're basing most of their decisions off of what the stats say. What we've got a guy with an iPad in the corner, and he's telling us based on the numbers, based on the math, this we should um, handle this situation this way. Yeah, so we've got managers who are managing baseball, managing their pitching staff, their bullpen, the situations of the game based off of what the iPad tells them to do. Now I know that's not fair to them. That's not entirely what they're doing, but it feels that way sometimes. Like I mentioned this last time too. You've got NFL coaches when it's 4th and 3, and they look over at the guy with the iPad and he says, "Hey, analytics say it's a go, so we're a go," and they don't think twice about it because over the course of a season, the numbers say this is going to work out more often than not. Which I understand the math, I understand why we do this, but I think I like how you explain it. There needs to be some sort of middle ground, right? Where a manager who knows baseball, who's played baseball, goes out there and kind of like, Dave Roberts. We give him a hard time, or at least I have in the past, um, about pulling pitchers early, right? He's pulled Kershaw and no hitters. He's um, in the 2020 World Series, like uh, Cashman pulls Snell early, and a lot of people attribute, that whole series to that mistake, whatever we want to call it. And then this year, you see him; he goes out, pats the guy on the butt, and says, "Analytics say I should pull you, but we're gonna let you ride." So some of those things where traditional managing, like gut feelings, um, things like that. I'd love to see a little more of that. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think so too. Some of those analytics, right? That they shouldn't be so black and white. I think. Going back to like the bunting example, right? If you have like your number 8 hitter who might be like a backup catcher who's not a good hitter but who's a good bunter, you got first and second, nobody out. Like that, it just makes all the sense in the world to bunt there. But even if the analytics tell you not to, like that, that's just something that a manager should still be able to make that call.
Yeah, putting trust that your guy can execute it, one, and then two, that the guys behind him are gonna at least uh make a good attempt at knocking somebody in, right? As opposed to three straight strikeouts or whatever, which is what we see a lot of now, which gets really really
Yeah,
tired of watching
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I think the numbers are just telling us, hey, maybe we should move a little bit in this direction. And sometimes that can be taken, out of context too much. I am curious though. So we see this so we see this a lot in baseball. It's a copycat league, right?
Yeah.
Where this trend happens, whoever wins a World Series, and then that's like
Yes.
the next trend, right?
Yes.
So I'm curious to see now going forward if other teams looked at the Dodgers, it was like, man, they left their starting pitchers in. Maybe we should do the same. And if we start to see that kind of swing back a little bit, to where instead of just pitching, 3, 4, 5 innings, maybe teams will let their starting pitchers go a little bit longer. I'm interested to see that in this upcoming season.
I hope that's the case. I mean, we've talked about this before, but like it was super refreshing to watch watch someone in the playoffs throw a complete game, right? Whether you're a Dodgers fan or not,
Yeah,
like that was cool. And I think we need to
yeah,
see more of that. I do. I think we need to see more of that.
playoffs especially. Yeah,
Playoffs especially, yeah. And again, we're trying not to let it swing too far the other way. I'm not saying if a guy's struggling, we need to push him to his max, right? Like, don't let the game get away from you. But in the last 5 to 8 years, we would have never seen, uh, we would have never seen that complete game. They'd have pulled him in the seventh with 2 outs or whatever, and let their closer come in and get the rest or whatever it may be, or a setup guy, whatever. So, yeah, like you said, if we could kind of have that swing back to maybe some pitchers going a little deeper, that would be super refreshing, at least as a fan watching.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
This is going to sound like a stupid question talking to a stats guy, okay? But the question I've
Yeah,
gotten
right.
written down is, are stats ruining baseball or saving it? Now I know the answer is probably neither, right? But that's the question I've gotten written down, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
I actually think the answer is both instead of neither.
Okay.
Right. I do think. I guess I'll start with the negative part. Right. If you think about like back in the like late '90s, early 2000s. One of the big debates was Derek Jeter versus Nomar Garciaparra.
Yeah.
Right? Who's the better shortstop? Red Sox, Yankees, and you would go into a bar in Boston and it would just be like, we think Nomar's the best because this. We think Jeter's the best because this. And I feel like if those two played in today's time, it would just be like, oh well, who has the better WAR, right? Who has the most WAR?
Yep.
Oh, okay, like debate over. So I feel like analytics have kind of killed those conversations. Just about like how we how we evaluate players. We have it, to such a science now that you don't really have those don't really have those conversations anymore, those debates. Now, on the other hand, like let's just think about the playoffs that we just watched, right? Like not only were the games really close and it was super entertaining, I thought that it was super high quality baseball being played too. So on the other hand, teams are using these statistics and using these analytics to construct the best possible team and to use these players to showcase their strengths like to the absolute max. And as a result, I think we're getting a better product, and I think that it's just better baseball and it's more entertaining. So I think, we kind of lose some things on one end, but on the other end, I think it's helping the game.
Man, that is, yeah, I love that take. That's well said. Very well articulated, Paul. Okay, Jackson, if you had to pick two stats fans should actually care about, what would they be?
Okay, two stats. Okay, and again, it's hard to pick one stat to paint the whole picture, right? But I think on the hitting end, I think the one that does the best job of that is probably probably OPS. For
Yeah,
those
I
not
agree.
familiar, um, and I feel like this has been getting like more mainstream. If you watch a game, batters coming up, it'll show like their batting average, home runs, RBIs, and now I've noticed it's showing OPS. For those that might not be familiar, it's your on base percentage plus your slugging. So it's fairly simple. What it does though is it tries to take into account, right, your on base percentage. So your walks. We know that walks are valuable. So it tries to take into account that, and also takes into account your slugging percentage, where we know as baseball fans that a home run is more valuable than a single. Now, is it four times as more valuable? That's debated, but it just tries to take all of those things into account. And the other thing you'll see along with that is OPS plus, which is how your OPS um, compares to other people in the league. And they say that 100 is average. So if you have a 120 OPS plus, that means that your OPS is 20% better than than the average OPS. So I think on the batting side, I think that one um, does the best to take into account all of the things that a hitter does. Now on the pitching side, um, there's a few that we could go with here, but one that I'm kind of interested in is your FIP. Um, FIP stands for fielding independent pitching. So for those not familiar, essentially what it's doing. Now the calculation of this is definitely more complicated than say like your OPS. But what your FIP says is, what would this pitcher's ERA be if he had an average defense behind him?
Okay.
So that really helps us look at, what pitchers are maybe a little bit lucky because they have an awesome defense behind them. Maybe they're
Mhm.
not as good of a pitcher as their ERA says, or the other way too, saying, hey, this guy's ERA might not be the best, but he doesn't have a very good defense behind him. If he had an average defense, this is what his ERA would be. So it really helps teams um, kind of evaluate pitchers of how would they be on our team. So I think those two are kind of interesting to look at, and I think do a good job of trying to again take into account like the whole picture.
Yeah. And so if you're a new baseball fan, or even if you're not, um, and you're looking to uh what am I trying to say? Find a way to evaluate a player against his peers, right? You would say OPS and FIP would be a better measure than WAR,
Boy, I'll say probably. Um,
probably.
war is one of those things. It's not a perfect stat for sure. And one thing that I think highlights that is there are actually different calculations for it, right? So you have like fan graphs that have their own war calculation, and Baseball Reference has one that's different.
Okay.
So war is not like a perfect stat. Um, war does try to capture everything, and the nice thing about war is it evaluates hitters and pitchers the same, and it also tries to take into account fielding. So that's what's nice is you're able to kind of compare across hitters and pitchers.
Mhm.
But war, I still feel like we have a little ways to go with war. I feel like we can't just say, hey, this person has this war, and it's more than this person, so player A is better. We still have a
Yeah.
little ways to go.
It's not the end all be all. We we've seen even in recent years, right, where we're retroactively calculating WAR of players who are retired or deceased, trying to make a case for Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, and I'm not saying that's wrong. Well, I think WAR still has some evolving to do before we claim it as the top of the top as far as evaluation goes. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And that's not to say that war, you know, I mean, war's still a pretty good, if you look at like the top of the war leaderboards, You still
It's
have
all the big
Judge,
names.
you still have
Yes.
Otani, and,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Um, but when you get into, like, the minute details of it, um, I still think that there are maybe some flaws in there.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Gonna shift gears for a second because I want you to give me your thoughts on the pitch framing and pitch framing metrics because I know you've got some opinions on that.
Okay, so listen, I'm not saying that pitch framing is not a good thing. I'm not saying that it's not valuable. And now that we're going to the new ABS system, it's probably not, this is all probably going to be a moot point.
Right.
Maybe a pet peeve that I have is when teams get a really good defensive catcher who's really good at pitch framing, and teams just like don't care whether or not they can hit.
Right.
Right, so it's like it sounds good, right? Oh, we have this great defensive catcher, and again, that's a good thing to have a good defensive catcher. But man, when it's like the eighth inning, and it's like in a big spot, and you just see your catcher just like lumbering up there, and you just know that he just like cannot. You just know that he's not going to get it done. It's like, oh yeah, like I'm really glad he's a good pitch framer.
Exactly.
So yeah, so sometimes I get I get kind of frustrated when teams put such a high priority on that stuff. When
Who
really it's like,
cares?
can we just
Yeah.
get a catcher that can hit?
Yeah. Who cares if he can hit? He can steal a low and away pitch, once in
Yeah,
a while.
yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Once a game he can turn a ball into a strike.
Yeah.
But he's like a horrible hitter. Yeah. So little pet peeve of mine.
No, I knew that was gonna bug you a little bit, so I just thought I'd get it in there before we get too far along here. Um,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna go through just a couple questions, and then we're gonna get into some Cleveland Guardians stuff, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we move on, give me your thoughts on eye test versus spreadsheet or what the paper says. And
Yeah.
maybe just give us like a rundown when we say eye test for someone who hasn't heard that term before. What are we talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. Eye test. When we talk about eye test, right? You go to the game, you don't have any stats, you don't have any notes. You're just almost pretending you don't know who the player is, and you're just watching the player and just evaluating purely based on what you see.
Mhm.
Comparing that to, um, maybe not watching the player at all, and just looking at the player's stats and evaluating that way. And we've
Yeah.
talked about like maybe somewhere in the middle, right?
So right, right.
The one thing that I feel like we don't do a good job with the stats is fielding. I
Yeah.
still think that we have a ways to go in evaluating from statistics how good of a fielder a player is. So in that aspect, I think that the eye test is actually still really important. Now, if someone's stats are really good, but someone says, I've watched this guy, I'm using the eye test, I don't think he's really good. I would probably push back on that and say maybe trust the stats a
Okay.
little bit more than your eyes, on things like, on things like hitting, on things like pitching. Um, yeah, I mean, if you're evaluating a player and you have them here and the stats have them here, then I would probably trust the stats more than your eye test. Again, I would say throw that out for things like fielding, but yeah. Now when it comes to stat says here, the eye test says he's here, then maybe that's a middle ground that you can work with. That maybe your eye test um, is bringing that player down a little bit, or maybe you're not evaluating him as high as the stats would say. But if
Yeah.
there's like a big difference between what your eyes are saying and what the stats are saying,
Go with the
it's like I don't
numbers.
know. I'd rather have a guy that puts up that puts up good stats, because that's
Yeah.
that's usually a good thing.
No, I 100% agree. Um, and along the lines of things being quantifiable, we're gonna talk just real short. Do you think there's such thing as a clutch player, like someone maybe who doesn't have the greatest stats, doesn't have a big name, and maybe he does, but it just seems like he's got something in him that when it's clutch time, you feel like you can't fail. Do you think? I mean, that's hard to quantify, right? What are your thoughts on
Yeah.
is a clutch player real?
Okay, I'll try to keep this short. I would actually love to talk to a former player or even a current player about this. Because if you just look at the stats, right? Any like pure statistician will tell you there's no such thing as a clutch player.
Exactly, which is why
That
I wanted to ask you what
yeah.
your
So
thoughts
that's
was,
because
because
when you look at the stats, right? So say you have a player that is better or worse in like clutch situations. Typically, the number of clutch situations compared to everything else is going to be such a small sample size that statistically you can't for certain say that that's an actual trend, right? Any
yes,
statistician will tell you based on such a small sample size, we can't tell from that. It's probably just normal statistical noise, um, just normal variance that you see. That it's not an actual trend. Now, the reason I would want to talk to a player is because if there are players that get up in clutch situations and their heart starts beating faster and the palms get a little bit sweatier and they're
mhm,
maybe more nervous, and then you see that dip, or vice versa, right? If a player is more focused in those clutch situations and you see a spike, then I would say, yeah, there of course is such a thing as having the clutch gene or not having the clutch gene.
yeah,
Um, so I feel like that would probably have to come from a player that says, yeah,
yeah,
I'm more focused during those times, and then the stats would back it up.
yeah. Because I can think of a few players off the top of my head that, um, if I feel like they lock in when the lights are the brightest, right? And sometimes it's frustrating because they don't, produce on such a scale normally, but
Yeah,
somehow
yeah, they don't lock in all the way
yeah,
normally. Yeah,
and so I definitely think I lean towards, yeah, clutch players are real, um, but it's so hard to quantify, right? It's probably impossible to quantify.
yeah, yeah. I would think so. And then you look at the playoffs too, right? Because that's like the most clutch situations. You're going against the best pitchers, right? So the best team. So you would almost expect maybe a little dip because you're going up against better pitchers than you do during the regular season, or vice versa, right? Pitchers are going up against the best hitters. Um, so so yeah, there's some numbers that go along with that. But yeah, I think most players would probably tell you that yeah, there is such a thing as being clutch.
Yeah, I'll bet most players would. I think they would argue that, till they're blue in the face.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, thanks for answering all my questions. We're gonna shift into some Cleveland Guardians baseball talk.
Yes.
And I
Yes. This
know,
is TJ. This is
yes,
what's going to move the needle for your
yeah,
podcast. Everyone is
this
dying to know what's going on with my Cleveland Guardians.
I
Yes.
know. I'm I've been excited to have you on because I know this is what I know. I know Jose Ramirez watches the podcast, so he's well, he's looking forward to what you have to say. Um, for those of you who don't know, Jackson is a Cleveland sports fan all across the board. Uh, in our little intermission here, he was telling me we were talking about the Cavs because they're playing right now as we talk, so I'm pulling him away from the game. First question I have for you is why do you put yourself through this? Why why do you
Yeah.
year after year we watch the Browns, year after year we watch the Guardians. Why are
Yeah.
we doing this?
Yeah. Um, okay. The short answer, I guess I'll make it as short as I can, right? So, um, when my grandpa was growing up back in the 40s, it's hard to believe, but the Guardians, back then they're the Indians, they actually won the World Series, and it's really hard to fathom. And during that time, the Browns were actually like a dynasty, like a no kidding dynasty. And he was 12 years old. He listened to him on the radio. He listened to him win the World Series, and that was kind of like his first like baseball experience. So he like hopped on the bandwagon. and then he cursed my dad with the same thing, and now he's cursed me too, and I'm probably gonna curse my own kids as well. So yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. I wish they maybe would have picked a different city to go with, but I can't bail at this point, right? Can't
I
choose
think
someone else.
I think you're locked in at this point. I mean, it's hard to
Yeah,
flip now.
yeah.
Um, so there's a lot of talk. I mean, like I'm making fun of them right now, which is pretty common when it comes to Cleveland sports. What's the national media getting wrong about Cleveland? Like, give me some fan insight here. What are we excited about? What are we nervous about? Give me some insights here.
Okay, so you see this all the time, right? Especially in baseball, where during the off season, I feel like I feel like these writers get bored and they just want to see these big signings. They want to see these big trades. They want things
Flashy
to write
moves.
about. Exactly. And when teams don't do that, they tend to just like drop them in the rankings. So we saw this actually last year with Cleveland and Milwaukee too. I'll lump them in. Cleveland, right? They win the division in 2024. They go to the ALCS. They have a super quiet offseason. They don't make any big splashy moves. And like their power rankings was just like way down, right? Their ranking in the national media goes way down because they're just running it back. And what happens, right? It was a little bit sketchier this time, but in 2025, they still won the division. They made the playoffs. They had a good season. So now what's happening this winter, right? They're not
Quiet
making any
offseason.
big splashy moves. They're having a really quiet off season. Um, I would much rather. I mean, I still complain about quiet off seasons too, but I'd much rather have a quiet off season and success in the regular season than the other way around.
For sure. I you know, quiet off season does not equal regression, right? That's what we talked about earlier. So, um, sometimes it's about the organization as a whole and the players and Cleveland's one of those organizations where I feel like some of the more traditional managing still is forefront, and they do a good job of mixing in the analytics, right? Because they're right. Do you off the top of your head, do you know what their payroll was
Last
around?
year,
Yeah,
I
50
think it was
something,
like
60 something,
60. I think it was 60 something million. Yeah,
60. So
definitely towards the bottom.
right, and what did Kyle Tucker just sign for? 60 alone, right?
Yeah, a year.
So
Yeah,
the Guardians somehow have found a way to consistently compete at such a lower payroll. Now, and it's not Moneyball, right? That's not the what they're doing, but um, it's impressive that they're able to consistently compete without following the trends that everyone else feels like they need to win.
yeah, yeah. It really has been impressive. Chris Antonetti um, is the team president. It's pretty rare when you just have like universal praise from the fan base about a GM and a president. Like everyone in Cleveland loves this guy
That never
because of that
happens.
reason, right?
Yeah.
He does such a good job um, of competing year after year without making any of these big signings. So it's pretty impressive.
What would you say Cleveland's biggest strength going into this season is if you had to pick one thing? I know we could talk about it forever, but if you had to pick one thing, what would you say their biggest strength is heading into 2026?
Biggest strength has got to be Jose Ramirez, right?
Yeah, period, right? Bottom line.
Man, just the fact that he's still in Cleveland, right? I mean, how many players have we seen go through the farm system? Cleveland develops them, and then either before they hit free agency, they get traded or they leave for more money, right? It happens over and over. So the fact that he's even still on the team is really cool. He's just a dude that just like does everything right. He runs out ground balls. When he first came up, he was not a great defensive player. He was not a great defensive third baseman, and he's worked at it and worked at it. This last year, he was just nominated for Gold Glove. Um, he's going to be another member of the 300 club, 300 home runs, 300 steals. Um, yeah, I mean, and just such a great leader in the clubhouse. Just like sets such a good example. I mean, yeah, he's just an amazing player, and yeah, he's definitely the greatest strength.
He's one of those, like, when kids are looking for, celebrity role models, like, pick that guy, you know what I mean? Because he stays out of trouble off the field, and he does everything right on the field. He was my MVP pick for this year. I mean, I know he wasn't gonna win it, but, like, that's who I wanted. He's a stud, man.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Biggest concern that fans aren't talking enough about when it comes to Cleveland Guardians baseball.
Okay, I mean, the one that fans are talking about is the lack of power in the lineup for sure. But that one's pretty. We're pretty outspoken about that one. I would say one thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is actually their starting pitching, which was
Yeah,
really, really good down the stretch last year. So I
it
think a lot
was.
of people view that as a strength, but it's just so many unproven guys that got hot. Everybody got hot at the same time for 6 weeks at the end of last year to win the division. So to think that guys like Parker Messick and Slade Ciccone and even like Tanner Bybee and Gavin Williams, to think that everyone's just going to repeat that, I just don't know. And I just feel like there's always pitcher injuries. I'm a little bit concerned about the depth there, and I think that we're going to see a little bit of regression from those guys.
I I like that. I think it's tough to count on players to, especially young, unproven, like you said, to repeat that kind of success as a whole year after year, right? You gotta assume whether it's regression, injury, or whatever it may be, that it's not going to plan or not gonna play out the exact same way as it had in the past.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't like just marking it in pencil. Yep, our
Yeah, we
starting
were
pitching that's
yeah.
going to be good.
Yeah, we were good last year, so we're gonna be good this year. We won't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not how sports work generally. Who's due for a breakout?
Oh man, I got to go with my fellow Idahoan, Kyle Manzardo.
Nice.
He's showed flashes of like real power, just hasn't quite been able to put it all together. And I know that you can say that about a lot of players.
Sure.
Um, but anyway, I just read he's put on 14 pounds of muscle. Um, he's just been like working super hard in the off season. He's one I feel like is due for a big breakout this year.
Nice. I love it. Who's being overrated by fans? Who's got too much hype?
Okay. I don't know if hype's the right word, but I just look at a guy like Brian Rocchio, and I feel like fans are just kind of penciling him into that shortstop spot.
Yeah.
And he's a guy that, again,
He
he got hot at the
he
end of
came
last
through
year.
he came through big in that
I know.
division clincher.
I know. He did. He
He
did.
did.
Yeah, he hit the home run.
Yeah.
Um, but he also spent like a huge chunk of last season in the minors because he couldn't hit. I mean, he was
Right.
horrible at the
Yeah.
plate, like for the first half of the season, first even like 2/3 of the season. So fans are, I wouldn't say they're like super hyping him up, but I think fans are kind of penciling him in there to be your everyday shortstop. And I don't know if I quite see that. He's also
Yes.
regressed quite a bit defensively too.
Need to see a little more from him before you're on board with that one.
Yeah, yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Which player's numbers tell a better story than their highlights? Who's
Right? We talked about the eye test versus the stats, right? Maybe the eye
Yeah,
test is better than the stats. Um,
exactly.
I think it's got to be Stephen Kwan. Not to say that he has bad numbers, right? He has good numbers, but
He's a
one
stud.
thing that he provides is his defense, which we already talked about is really hard to evaluate. He has already won 4 Gold Gloves in his 4 seasons in the league, so that's being recognized. I'm excited to see him with the new ABS system because one of his strengths is he has such a good feel for the strike zone that I feel like he's going to win a lot of those challenges, and I feel like that's really going to be beneficial to him. He's another guy doesn't make a lot of mistakes, um, hits the ball to all parts of the field, doesn't strike out very much. Always puts the ball in play, walks a lot, plays great defense.
Steals
Just a guy
bases.
that
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and another, like, super solid guy in the clubhouse. Now he's been in a zillion trade rumors, so we'll see if he's still on the team, through the season, but, he's a guy that stands out.
Yeah, great answer. I 100% agree. Um, Shifting gears, let's pretend let's pretend we're front office members here. We're gonna talk about analytics versus payroll. Um, what do we got to get? What do we got to do to get the Guardians to spend a little more money, or is that just an unrealistic ask?
Yeah, I'm just, like, I'm so tired of complaining about the Dolans not spending money because it's just not gonna happen at this point, right? They obviously don't care. They don't care about what fans say, right? Every offseason, we scream at them to spend more money or to extend guys or, whatever it may be, and it never happens. So, yeah, I mean, I'm tired of complaining about it because I know that's not gonna happen. So as far as what move could they do? They could maybe get a new owner. I think that would help because I just don't ever see the Dolans just dishing out like these huge contracts. Now, in their defense, they do try to extend some of the players that they have. They don't do big free agent signings, but they do try to extend some of the players. They've extended Tanner Bybee. They extended Emmanuel Clase, which of course was a great
That's
extension
gonna
there.
that's gonna work
Nothing
out
going on.
beautifully long term.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly. Not, no concerns there. They did extend Jose Ramirez. So, that is one thing that they try to do, but they're just never going to have like a huge payroll. That's just the nature of the sport. It's the nature of the owners, and that's just kind of where we are.
they about had to extend Ramirez, right? I mean, if they hadn't, they would have lost a big chunk of fan base, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah, that was
They were kind of
and
handcuffed there.
Ramirez
He took,
actually took a huge pay cut.
yeah,
They were saying like $100 million less than probably what he could have gotten.
absolutely.
Um,
Teams
so
were lining
yeah,
up ready to sign him. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And Jose has a no trade clause with that too. So
Um, but they are good at developing talent. Like you said, look, we talked about they're really good at bringing guys up through their system and then shipping them off wherever they may be. But are we attributing that to team president, GM, or is that some of that the Dolans as well?
yeah, the other thing that I have to defend the Dolans on is they seem to have a pretty good organization, top to bottom. When you compare them to my Browns, right? It's like, man, this is a great organization. Even if they even if they don't spend money, right? They seem to always hire the right people, from Antonetti to Chernoff, um, to they had Terry Francona forever, and then they just slide Stephen Boatwright in there, and he's won Manager of the Year a couple times in a row. Um, so they do seem to make pretty good hires there. And yeah, it does seem like they have a good organization. It seems like everything's in the right place, except for they just have a hard time spending money.
But developing talent is cheaper than buying it generally.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why you see. I mean, their team is so young, right? It's because they're so cheap. And one of the big conversations this offseason, um, they ask Chris Antonetti, are you going to make any signings? Are you going to make any trades? And his big thing was, I don't want any players to get in the way of some of these players that we're developing and that we want to take a look at,
Hmm.
which is kind of frustrating as a fan sometimes because
Yeah.
you want a sure thing, but they look at it differently. They look at, a young cheap player who ends up being really good. I mean, that's super valuable to them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Any other Cleveland talk you got on your mind? You need to get off your chest. Need to vent a little bit before we move on to maybe some league wide stuff.
um, we've already gone too much Guardians. We've
Okay.
already lost half the audience. Yeah, yeah. I think we're good.
Okay. I won't keep you too much longer. I got a few questions just about league wide, like 2026 season predictions. Just quick thoughts. So just, whatever comes off the top of your head. I mean, we'll make fun of you for it later, but the season hasn't started yet, so we're good. Uh, the World Series matchup. Let's go predictions. Hot take or what you really think. I don't care.
Um, go off the beaten path a little bit, maybe. Let's go Mariners over Mets World
Oh,
Series.
okay.
Um,
Any thought process behind those picks? Mariners, I understand. I think they were. I mean, I thought they were right. They were should have probably been there this year.
they were right there, and I almost feel like their pitching didn't quite live up
Yeah,
to their potential too. I mean, they have a really, really talented starting pitching. Um, that I feel like didn't quite live up to what they could have been. So if that all
yeah.
comes together, I
Ma-
think they got a good shot.
Mariners, I can see. What's the any thoughts over the Mets, or you just gut feeling, or what?
The Mets the Mets are super talented, right? We already know that. Their lineup is super talented.
Yeah,
They can, get everyone playing good at the same time. Their starting pitching though, there's like a lot of question marks. But that's the thing, right? Is they have a lot of young pitchers. If those young pitchers end up being good, I mean, watch out for the Mets, right? I almost feel like that's kind of the last piece that they have.
that's a good
And
point.
we know that they're going to be aggressive at the trade deadline. We know that, they're going to sniff out whatever weakness they have and they'll be aggressive and make a trade for it. So, yeah, if we just
Yeah,
kind of want to get off the beaten path a little bit, let's go Mariners over Mets.
I like it. We know Cohen's not afraid to write a check if he needs to. So,
Right.
dark horse playoff team. Who's your pick?
Dark horse playoff team. Let's go with the Royals. Um, maybe not like super dark horse, but they're a team that made the playoffs in 2024 and then kind of took a step back in 2025. Although they finished around 500. It's not like they were bad.
Yeah,
Um, I just feel like, and I probably should have come with some examples to back it up, but I feel like you have a guy like Bobby Wood Jr. Like we've seen a lot of examples of an awesome rookie year and maybe a little step back the second year
sophomore slump.
and then being awesome
Yeah, you're right.
going
I
forward.
had that same thought. I had that same thought with Bobby Witt Jr.
So, if they have like Cole Reagans could stay healthy all year, they're a team that I can see sneaking into the playoffs.
Nice, I agree. Team that will disappoint everyone,
Oh boy.
not the
I feel
Guardians.
like well, I already know that they'll disappoint me. Dude, at some point, don't you feel like it's gonna fall off for the Phillies? Don't you
Oh,
feel like the wheels are gonna fall off?
they've been right there year after year after year, and they just
I
can't
know.
get over the hump. And at one of these years, you're right. I think it's gonna all come crashing down.
I mean, their team is just it's just so old, right? Um, and 162 games, and it's hard because they were so good last year. But I just keep thinking, like, man, at some point, these guys are just going to keep getting older and older, and that production is just going to keep dropping and dropping. So I don't know. If I had to pick a team, might be them.
MVP picks.
Okay. I mean, you can try to think to go off the beaten path here, but
Give me.
barring
Well,
injury,
give me.
how can you say anyone else besides Judge and Otani?
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, give me who it's gonna be, and then give me who you want it to be.
Well, I mean, American League's obvious, right? Obviously, I want it to be Jose Ramirez. I
Sure.
think, again, I should have looked this up before. He, he has a real chance of getting the Jose. Talking about Jose Ramirez
Yeah.
again. He has a chance to get the most MVP votes without winning an MVP in the history of the league.
Oof.
So that would be amazing if you could get there. I feel like Judge would have to get hurt. I mean, uh, Cal Raleigh hit 60 home runs and still couldn't win the MVP.
Yeah. Wild, right? Okay.
Yeah, the National League. I feel like if Francisco Lindor puts together,
Yeah, he was
you
right
know,
there.
yeah. I mean, I can't remember if he was a finalist or not, but
Yeah, he
him
was.
or his teammate Soto, right? They're there.
Right.
But again, I feel like Otani has to get hurt.
Let's say if
I
Otani's
don't see.
healthy, it's just tough
And he's
for
pitching this
anyone.
year too.
Yeah, so it might be in the bag already if he stays healthy, which is tough to say, but is what it is. Um, Cy Young picks.
Let's go. again, in the National League, it's hard to go against Skeens, right? You can maybe make an argument for Yamamoto. If you look at Skeens, right? He's a number one pick. He's in the minor leagues for like 2 seconds. Comes up, starts the All-Star game, wins Rookie of the Year. Next year, like no sophomore slump for him, right? He wins the Cy Young. So how can you think that like all of a sudden his third year he's going to be like worse, right? He just keeps
Yeah,
getting better and better and better.
that
So
guy's gonna
I
make a
feel like you
lot of
almost
money.
have to go him.
Yeah, that guy's gonna make a lot of money one day outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the nature of it. In the American League though, it's actually kind of a close Cy Young race. I thought between Skubal and Crochet. So if we're gonna switch it up, I feel like that would be. I feel like Garrett Crochet would be a good American League Cy Young pick.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I like watching Crochet pitch. When he's healthy, I think he's right there with Scooble, best of the best. But
Yeah, yeah.
um, give me we're gonna go hot take here. Give me a bold prediction
Oh,
that's probably gonna age poorly. Okay, but if you're right, I mean, you could look like a psychic, right? Let's
I
give me
cannot wait to
one.
run this past you. I
Give me
cannot wait.
one. Yeah, give me one prediction that's gonna age poorly for 2026.
Have you spilled your fandom on this podcast yet? Do the
No,
listeners know?
no, I
Okay.
I try to stay neutral, but
Oh my
it sounds
gosh.
like you're
Yeah.
headed somewhere that
Okay.
you got to do what you got to do. So
Okay. Let me preface this by saying there's no way I actually believe this. Um, there's no way this is actually going to happen, but we can edit that part out. Um, okay. Hot take. Ready for this? I'm going to
let's
say
hear
the
it.
Dodgers missed the playoffs.
Miss the
Okay?
playoffs.
Dodgers missed the playoffs.
Jeez.
Okay? Here's the case. Here's the case.
Let me hear it.
Okay. Last year, how many games they won regular season? 90, 93. Um, I think that was fifth best. So they had the fifth best record in baseball. There was a time there late in the season where it's like, man, the Padres are like right on their tail.
Yeah, it was pretty nervous there for a minute.
They barely won the World Series. Barely. Which I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a Guardians fan. Not like I can be criticizing, World Series wins. But my point is, it's not like we watched some dominant team from start to finish all year that just like rolled their way through the regular season and playoffs,
Yeah.
right? There was a lot of shakiness.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of shakiness with that team. Okay. Mookie Betts. Did you see he
Yes.
announced his retirement?
Yes, I
What
did.
is that all about?
I don't know. I mean, I get having a plan, but to come out publicly and say, "Yeah, I'm hanging it up at 2030."
In 2032 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna retire. Probably not the best sign, I don't think. He was still a good player, right? But he still regressed, I think.
He
I
he
think
did.
that's fair to say. I think the same can be said about Freddie Freeman. And
Getting up there.
these guys are each going to be a year older, going another 162 games. TJ, you just turned 30. You know what it's
Yeah.
like to be older. You
Yeah,
know
my
what it's
back
like
hurts
when
getting
you're
out of
out
bed.
past
It's tough.
7:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you know what it's like. So maybe there's some regression there. It's like, oh well, they just signed Kyle Tucker. It's like ask Cubs fans how they feel about Kyle Tucker,
Yeah.
right?
I know.
Ask them if they would shell out $240 million to Kyle Tucker,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he was getting booed. So, you know, is that a great signing? Maybe not. And then it's like, oh well, the starting pitching was so injured last year. They're going to be back and they're going to be fine this year, and that'll really help them out. It's like, you really think Tyler Glasnow is going to put it all together and throw 230 innings? Like, I wouldn't bet on it. I
Right.
I wouldn't call him Cal Ripken Jr.
Right.
So I feel like the case is their starting pitching is still going to be banged up. You're going to see a lot of regression from their stars, and plus you look at the division that they play in. It's
It's
probably the
tough.
best division in baseball, right? So
It
you're
really is.
playing all these games against the Diamondbacks, who are not laying down, against the Giants, who are wanting to win, and against the Padres, who gave
Are
you a
really
run for your
good.
money last year. So
Yeah.
if all of these things combine, which again would never ever happen, but if all of those things combine, maybe there's a world where they really regress and miss out.
There's a scenario where I could see that that's a possibility. And real quick, we don't want to spend too long just talking about this, but let's say it happened. Dodgers missed the playoffs in 2026. Do you think they let Roberts go at that point? After
No, I
back-to-back
think they
World
keep them.
Series? Yeah, I would
I think
think
they
so
keep
too,
them.
but I just thought I'd throw it out there because I think there's teams that would, you know, when the expectations are that high with the payroll that you have, missing the playoffs would be a
When I'm having a hard day, these are the kind of thoughts that cheer me up in my mind. So
Oh,
that's why I
man.
came up with it.
Okay, well, we'll keep rolling so I don't keep you too happy. Feelings on the pitch clock. We're a few years into it now, so it's, it's not a new topic of conversation, but, how we feeling
Yeah,
about it?
I've come around on it. I think you talked about this too. I think we kind of shared similar feelings at the start.
Yeah.
There's part of me that's like, one of the beauties of baseball is there is no clock,
Yeah.
right? You can just show up to the game and there's no clock. You don't have to worry about it. And now that there is a pitch clock, there's a little bit like, I don't love it, but I also the game just goes a lot smoother, man.
It
I mean,
really does.
it just the pitch clock has just cut out um, a lot of that extra wasted time. So
Yeah.
I think I've come around on it.
Same way. I was anti rule addition, rule changing. However, now that the pitch clock's in, I'm like, what the heck were these guys doing with all this extra time? Like,
Yeah,
you know, where did it
exactly,
all go? So yeah, I'm with you
exactly.
there. Any of the new rules that are still rubbing you the wrong way?
I still hate that they banned the shift.
Me too. Me too.
That that's just like one of the like fundamental principles of baseball, right? Is is you're supposed to hit it where the fielders are not.
Hit it where they
And
ain't.
the
That's what they
baseball
say.
field, yeah, right. The baseball field stays the same size. So if players shift this way, then that will open up, another part of the field. And I hear all the time, "Oh, well, you don't know how hard it is to, just go the other way. These hitters can't just do that." It's like, well, some hitters can do it, and
Yep.
they're getting punished because they can do it. I don't know. I still don't like that one.
Yeah. I'm with you there. Uh More important trait in October, is it depth of roster or star power?
Okay, I actually think it's star power in
Okay.
October.
Yeah, explain a little.
Okay, over the course of the regular season, right? Play 162 games. Depth is
Long
super
season.
important. Depth
Mhm.
is so important, especially in the bullpen. Once you get to October, though, the rosters get smaller. The number of games you play gets smaller, right? So I wouldn't say it's super important to have five like amazing starting pitchers in a 3-game wild card series, right?
Yeah,
It's important to have like one or two like amazing top of the line pitchers than it is to have, five really good pitchers. So I feel
agreed.
like in October, when things shorten up a little bit, I actually think that having your top end players is actually more valuable than, you know, having more depth, but maybe not as good players.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. This is a hypothetical, okay, so you don't have to get too crazy on it. If Cleveland were to go all in on one season, what's the one move they would need to make?
New owner.
New
I think
owner.
that's the move.
But
That's the
you
move.
think he's not going to replace himself though, so that's probably
That's the problem, right? That's
that's
the
a
problem.
problem.
They just have so. I mean, there's not just like one move that would do it, this year. They just have their lineup is just so there's so many question marks there. And yeah, we already talked about the pitching. Um, that there's not just one move. I don't think that can get them, to actually be like a real World Series contender. I think that's going to take a little bit more time.
Yeah. Okay. A couple last questions before I let you go. What should fans pay attention to this season that they would normally miss?
Um, I think we kind of talked about it earlier. I'm really curious to see the use of starting pitchers versus relief pitchers, and
Going
to
deep.
see if that trend, yeah, to
Yeah.
see if they maybe try to follow the Dodgers and just try to get more out of their starting pitchers. or if it continues to go the other way and starting pitchers, pitch fewer and fewer innings. I'm curious to see like who's going to lead the league in wins this year. We're going to
Okay,
have
yeah.
a couple 20-game winners this year,
Yeah.
or is it going to, keep going the other way?
Yeah, it's been a rarity, right? Last 15 years for anyone to get to 20.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I think that's all I got for you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm long-winded. We went long.
No, it made my job way easier. But anything else you want to say before we head out?
No, just one day when you get nominated for a Golden Globe for this podcast, with
Yeah.
Amy Poehler,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to accept that trophy for you.
Oh yeah. We're definitely shooting for the stars over here in my garage where I work on gloves. So
Yeah,
um
yeah, exactly.
no, Jackson, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you answering all my questions and let me give you a hard time. Uh we're hoping to have you on more regularly, just talk stats. Maybe have a little segment for you where you can just bring in some numbers for us. Um, just from somebody who knows what they're talking about and give us a little idea of, as we go throughout the season, some interesting things to look at if that's something you'd be interested in.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, Let me know. It'd be a good project for me to work on. So I'm happy to do it, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe. I don't have any calls to the bullpen questions today, so you guys need to send me in some questions so we can read them. Other than that, we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys.